reading interviews between you, it's unclear. Like, do you get on set, or do you genuinely kind of annoy each other?
Best friend.
Okay.
Say it. Say it. Come on, man. Say it. We in the UK. Say it. Let them know how you feel. Best friend touch. Come on, man. Come on, man. There it is. Yeah, my best friend.
But didn't he steal your catchphrase?
He always steals everything. You know, when people see me, they be like, yo, Q, yeah.
Hey. Do it. Good. I'm not going to say that.
So I say, hey, Q, yeah.
Hey.
That's so weak. It has no flavor to it.
We're brothers. We're best friends. Stop.
Why do black people like menthol so much? What's that about? It's a totally different type of cigarette.
You're going to get me canceled.
No.
This is very racist, this
Is it?
conversation, even though neither of us are.
It's like if you start asking me about spaghetti, I'm not going to get offended.
How many people have ever died of pasta-related illnesses?
A lot.
On May 10th, 2026, Katt Williams walked out onto Kevin Hart's own stage at Hart's own Netflix roast, dressed in a black hat and a long leather cape, like a man who had absolutely nothing to lose. The crowd didn't just applaud, they erupted. Because the man walking out wasn't just a famous comedian, he was the man who had spent years publicly dismantling Kevin Hart's entire legacy, calling him a fraud, a puppet, and an industry plant. And here he was, in the building, at the roast, live on Netflix. Nobody saw it coming. To understand why that entrance hit the way it did, you have to know the full history. The tension started taking shape in 2014. Katt Williams had been in comedy for years. The original high-energy short black comedian who could command a room with pure physicality and chaos. Then Kevin Hart arrived and the comparisons were immediate. Same energy, same height, same ability to make a crowd lose their minds. But where Katt built his reputation through raw, unfiltered stand-up, Hart took a different lane, the corporate Hollywood path that turned him into a blockbuster brand. Katt started making passive-aggressive comments about comedians selling out to Hollywood. The timing was deliberate. Hart's film career was taking off. Right along, Think Like a Man 2, top 5. Then Katt alleged he'd helped shape Hart into the comedian he became. By August 2014, it got specific. Speaking to TMZ Sports, Katt dropped a loaded line. "Get out of here before I take the rest of your girls like you took Kevin Hart from me." The first real signal that Katt felt Hart's rise had come at his expense. February 2016 brought Cato Phillips Arena in Atlanta, where he called Hart a puppet and compared him to Kermit the Frog, a lifeless piece of fabric operated by someone behind the scenes. Hart responded on Instagram with a photo of himself alongside Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock at the Academy Awards, writing that true professionals understand the importance of sticking together. Calm, measured, pointed. A month later, Katt issued a $5 million challenge ahead of a Philadelphia stop, Hart's own hometown, daring him to a head-to-head stand-up battle. No executives, no deals, no machinery, just two men and microphones. Days later, Katt appeared on V103 in Atlanta and walked everything back, saying he never should have mentioned Hart's name, and the remarks were private thoughts that weren't meant for the public. Retraction accepted. Damage already done. In September 2018, the feud pulled in a third party. Katt questioned whether Tiffany Haddish had proven herself as a comedian right as she was coming off the massive success of Girls Trip and preparing to star alongside Hart in Night School. Hart broke his silence. On The Breakfast Club, he addressed Katt directly and he didn't hold back. He said his frustration with Katt came from one central hypocrisy. Katt kept pointing at Hollywood and the machine while refusing to take any personal accountability. "You had the shot. You were the guy," Hart told the world. He questioned whether Katt had ever used his platform to lift anyone beneath him, and said because he hadn't, he had no right to criticize those who were doing exactly that. It was the only time Hart ever laid all his cards on the table about Katt Williams. Both men retreated after that. Katt's career continued in a different lane, respected in comedy circles, but not crossing into mainstream Hollywood. Hart's business empire kept expanding. Movies, deals, an estimated net worth of $450 million. The gap between where the two men stood only widened, and that gap became the fuel for what came next. In January 2024, Katt Williams sat down with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay, and across nearly 3 hours, he systematically dismantled Hart's origin story in front of what would become 86 million viewers. The most viral podcast appearance in entertainment history, Katt came loaded. He said in 15 years, nobody had a memory of a sold-out Hart show, a line around the block for him, or a standing ovation at any comedy club. He painted a picture of a man who walked into Hollywood with pre-arranged success, sitcom already greenlit, movies already cast. He alleged that for 5 years, every film Hart made had previously been offered to Katt, and he had passed each one for content reasons. Not just calling Hart untalented, calling him a substitute, a second choice, elevated by an industry machine that needed a specific kind of black comedian and would manufacture one if necessary. The word he chose to summarize it all was plant. That single word became the headline. It trended. It consumed the internet. It became shorthand for the entire interview. Later that year, Katt revealed his full intentions at New York Magazine's Vulture Festival. I was trying to do something that hadn't been done. I thought I had figured out the algorithm mathematically. When I wrote it out to kill the careers of the people I was talking about. Those weren't jokes. He admitted he had even held back, calling what he released the jabs, with the knockout blows still in his pocket. Hart's public response was measured. Got to get that anger up, champ. It's honestly sad. On social media and in interviews, he kept the same energy, calm, almost sympathetic. But behind the scenes, something neither the public nor the press knew about was quietly happening. Hart later revealed on Carmelo Anthony's podcast that he and Katt had actually spoken privately. A phone call without cameras or intermediaries had started moving things toward a different place. He described it simply, removing the performance aspect of the conflict and just talking like two people to change things. Growing older had made both of them better at handling conflict without needing an audience for it. But a private phone call and a public reconciliation are two entirely different things. On May 10th, 2026, the Netflix roast of Kevin Hart at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles brought out Shane Gillis as host, Pete Davidson, Chelsea Handler, Draymond Green, Dwayne Johnson, Tom Brady, Usher, and others. Then Regina Hall stepped to the mic and introduced a name nobody in the room expected to hear. Katt walked out. The crowd erupted. He opened his mouth and did not hold back. I'm surprised they invited me. That's how little star power you have. They had to start inviting your enemies. He fired again. I said I hate him. And they said, come anyway. He delivered a line about humility that was anything but. Very humble of me to come to your goat roast tonight, Kevin. I've won an Emmy Award, but this is going to be my best acting tonight as I pretend like you are a goat. Then he went straight to the jugular. Privately, this man stole everything from me. Before he saw my act, he was a 6-foot man. He brought up Diddy. Just because Kevin went to Diddy parties does not mean he did something wrong. The fact that he gets all quiet when you bring it up, that means he did something wrong. Then the kicker. They tried to cancel Kevin for the Diddy parties. They hurled allegations at him. But thanks to all the baby oil, the charges didn't stick. The crowd was completely on fire. Then he reframed his most famous insult. I tried to tell y'all Kevin Hart was a plant because I keep burying him and he keeps springing back up, just like a plant. Turning a decade-long accusation into a punchline the audience could laugh with instead of at. Jeff Ross, the legendary roast master, confirmed afterward that as far as he knew, Hart and Katt had zero contact before the live broadcast. Every word that night happened in real time, unscripted, loaded with 11 years of history. After Katt finished, Hart stood up and addressed him directly in front of the live audience. I and this man have been at odds for years on years. You coming out here? Quite the effing surprise. But Katt, I can sit, I can watch you, I can laugh, because I'm a fan first. He kept going. Katt, we have an opportunity in real time on live TV to put our beef behind us. I am offering you an olive branch of peace. I want to be your brother, your friend, Katt. Can we move on? Williams walked over, a handshake, a hug. The crowd rose to its feet. Then Hart capped it off. Everybody has said tonight that I can't act. What I want you to do is go back and look at that moment where I shook Katt's hand and said, I just want us to be friends. Some of the best acting I've ever done in my career. I did not mean one word of what I said. The crowd lost it. F Katt Williams, F. Katt Williams. Was the olive branch real? Was the whole thing theater from start to finish? That's the beauty of a roast. The format lets sincerity and comedy exist on the same frequency, and nobody can ever be completely sure where one ends and the other begins. What is certain is that two men who spent 11 years talking about each other through press and interviews found a different kind of moment when they finally shared the same stage. Hart confirmed they are already talking about projects together. Whether this truce holds or becomes another chapter, the night is already archived in comedy history. A decade of war, one stage, and a handshake that nobody could quite read, which is exactly how both of them would have wanted it. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think the reconciliation was real, or was it all part of the show? Subscribe for more breakdowns like this one.